Cosmetic family.
Hey, thanks for joining us on the Cosmetic Podcast.
Cosmetic means being a person or thing that gives rise to a phenomenon that is dynamic or energizing.
We're tackling topics and telling the truth.
I'm Roderick Ross.
I'm Keith Fetzel.
So today our topic is know your worth, right?
Right. And so how much would that be? I mean...
Hey, this feels like a trick question.
Okay, I won't go there then.
I'm talking about when it comes to your workspace and how much you mean to an organization and how you can use that to leverage or influence. Like, really understanding your value in an organization is critical if you want to move up, if you want to impact change, if you want to learn and grow and thrive. But you got to be able to assess realistically, right? Because
realistically,
that's the key word, right?
Because my value, what I think I'm worth, versus what the organization thinks.
Well, what I think you were.
Yeah. I know you. Ain't nobody got enough money for that right there.
That's not true.
Thank you for that compliment.
You're welcome.
But you got to really know what your value, and really, like I said, realistic. I think is a really good term to be able to use, because so many people put value on themselves that maybe it's not quite there. I don't know if you did this. But coming out of college, because everybody says a college degree is what you aspire to get, right?
Uh-huh.
So you can go out and get a good job.
Right.
And so then when you read the job description, so you're a senior, you just graduated, and you read a job description, you say, okay, college degree, check, I got that.
Mm-hmm.
Not that much experience. Okay, well, I've worked, one summer I worked here, another summer I worked there. So that's 2 years of experience.
Wow.
Right. And it's an executive director position.
Wow. I didn't. That sounds really like something you did. Yeah, I didn't do that.
No, when I'm reading resumes and I get these, for some of our maybe senior level positions, but it's like people think that their value or their worth is way more than what it may be to the organization.
Well, I think sometimes there's a trip up in what you value as opposed to how valuable you are. And so what they may value in those instances is that pay, right? Like that compensation. But your value may not necessarily make you a competitive candidate for that particular role.
Okay.
I know. And that's just me speculating.
Right.
So there's that.
Yeah. And so when we talk about, you're in the workspace, what is your worth? And then we take a look at what's your role and responsibility. And some of that is coming to your bottom line. So how much financial responsibility do you have, especially in the YMCA? If you're looking to be an executive director, CEO, or VP, it's sad in some cases that people look at just how much financial responsibility that your portfolio is really worth. But there is still some benefit in some of that right there. So take a look at that bottom line. What are you responsible for, and how do you get more of that in order to get the job that you may want down the road? And
the other thing too is how much do you contribute to the bottom line, right? So the work that you're doing, or the things that you're responsible for, the spaces that you're aiming to be the content expert in, how much does that increase the bottom line for the organization? How do they then begin to equate that, like, wow, monetarily, what could happen if we lose this person, or if this person decides that they don't want to do this for us, or whatever the case may be. So that's another way of kind of assessing your value through bottom line analysis. Did I just make up something new and fancy? Bottom line analysis? I don't know.
I'm pretty sure the financial world has figured that terminology out, but that's okay.
It's new to me.
Yeah,
so it's new.
There you go.
Well,
so we have a lot of YMCA program directors that listen to the podcast, and one of the things that they are, they're maybe not in charge of that much bottom line financial responsibility, but you still got to show your worth, like you were saying. Mm-hmm. But when you take a look at, if I would say to any program director out here, take a look at what you're doing. And so while your budget, let's just use team director as an example, while your budget may be, say, $50,000,
right?
But what type of money is the organization raising based on the work that you're doing.
Right.
It may not go to your specific branch, but it may be spread out, and you're contributing to that right there. So you got to be able to look at your role as that, well, man, I only have 50,000. Well, yes, directly, but indirectly, you may be helpful for your annual campaign at your branch. You know, your annual campaign may be, you know, $200,000 at your branch, and you are part of that right there. So I think there's some different ways that you can look at, you know, kind of what's your worth versus just from that specific bottom line.
Yeah, and you know, also remember too that how much is the work that you're doing attributing to the cause of the organization? How is it allowing the organization to really talk about their mission and why they exist, and give concrete examples on why they're excellent at what they do? You know, how does what you're doing in the bottom line and how you affect the bottom line allow the organization to go out and maybe potentially get other dollars, whether it's from funders or partnerships? And so even though that's not in your direct line of responsibility, you're absolutely affecting, you know, your association or the overall big picture. It's about kind of raising your head sometime and having a more global perspective.
Yeah, and when you're out there, you're determining what your worth is. You're saying, I do this, I do that, I do this. Make sure that you are taking a look at the time that it takes in order to do something. And so, yeah, while this presentation may be very important that you may have coming up,
Right.
like you can't spend 8 hours a day preparing for a presentation. You got to be able to balance that out right there. So you're taking on these extra stretch assignments that we may call them, but you got to make sure that you're balancing out all of your time all together in order to, again, show what your worth is all about.
Yeah, you know, there seems to be this conundrum that's occurring, or that people are reckoning with, this whole idea around time is money and busyness. Like, if you're constantly running and you're quote unquote busy, does that also mean that you're productive and you're valuable, or are you filling your time with things that may not necessarily be game changer kind of activities, but you want to look busy because somewhere in the translation of things, that quote unquote looking busy translates to people like, oh, they must be valuable, but they must be important. Right. They're really doing big things. Like, no, maybe they got poor time management.
Yeah, busy doesn't equal productivity.
No, it
not
doesn't.
At all. Not
it
at all.
doesn't.
And you can't think that people value your business, because it has to be the right type of business in order to get to some productivity that's going to help us out, whether that be towards the bottom line or whether that be from an influence standpoint. You cannot equate busy and productivity as being the same thing.
You know, now that you say that, right, I just thought too, even from a leadership perspective, if you are providing leadership for folks, giving them these tasks that keep them busy, right, and keep them constantly moving and kind of buzzing like little bees, without allowing space for people to be strategic and intentional and thoughtful and slow down, also decreases a person's value to the organization. Inadvertently, I would hope that people aren't doing that intentionally, just giving folks little menial busy jobs just to see them doing something. But as a leader, and your value to an organization as a leader, you gotta kind of assess, are you inundating your folks with just tasks for no reason?
Yeah, tasks, you know,
just stuff.
Yeah. This stuff.
Like
this
stuff you do
stuff.
to keep kids busy so they don't get in trouble.
Man,
you just need a minute.
Right. This is the workplace. No.
Right.
Let's give people valuable work.
Yeah.
And like leaders that are out there, hey, take some of that stuff off your plate and give that to somebody. Again, if you see the potential in them, like not something just busy. Okay, we're not talking about an intern. We're talking about a full-time employee that's on your staff. Like, give them the right stuff so that they can be, one, productive. Yeah. We can make the organization more productive, and it gives even more worth to that individual. And
it increases your worth, right? Because you just freed up your time to really do some impactful things.
Now, what can you do? Now, while you're taking on these stretch assignments, now, don't keep your mouth closed. You got to let some folks know about what you're doing.
Okay, so here's the thing. There's a nuance to that.
Right.
Right, because it's a very thin line between singing praises and obnoxious.
Right.
And I unfortunately have seen way too many obnoxious people.
Yeah, there's a fine balance of that right there. So please understand that when we're talking about singing your praises, and telling somebody, it is not that, hey, in the meeting, I did this. Yeah, you got to count them eyes because somebody else going to count them eyes also.
You got to count the eyes?
Count the eyes. If you just said eyes 3-4 times in the meeting, like you
hit your eye quota.
Yeah,
okay.
and so that ain't singing your praises. That's just you being maybe a little arrogant, or you out there just putting yourself out there a little bit more.
Yeah.
But you do want to put yourself in a position where you can make sure that other people are knowing what you're doing if you have interest in growing in the organization, because the days are gone that you can just be in a job for 15 years and then you get your promotion. You got to be able to share that. One of the things I share with my staff is that, hey, make sure, one, I do a self-evaluation at the mid-year as well as at the end of the year. And I do that because I want to, there's some things that I may miss. Now, the memory.
Uh-oh.
Oh, I forgot what No, I'm just joking. I'm joking. The memory's not always good when that mid-year review comes around and the end of the year come around. So you want to, I like for my staff to, hey, do a self-evaluation on yourself. Make sure you don't leave out all the great things that you've done.
Yeah.
Now, I try to do a job on keeping some type of documentation on staff. What I'll do is I'll take just a blank Word document and title it somebody's name, and I'll just highlight throughout the year, just type in there, no formality to it, but just type in there what they've done so that I can recall when that mid-year review comes around and when that end of the year come around to what some of the things that they've done.
Yeah.
But I share with staff that, hey, do that same type of documentation for yourself so that you can make sure you're getting credit for the great things that you've done.
And while there are some people who it really seems to be intuitive to them on how to sing their own praises without crossing that line into obnoxiousness. But for the folks that aren't, that doesn't come to them naturally, or doesn't seem like kind of a duh, these are the things you do, there are a couple of things that you can do to sing your praises or to help you develop that skill. One of them is when you're talking about your accomplishments, make sure you're only talking about, you're highlighting or you're amplifying the accomplishments that you have evidence for, right? So it's not about because I felt really good doing something, or because sometimes we get into passion projects at work and we do the things that we really feel strongly about, but are they necessarily that important to the organization where you should really be talking about it? I don't know. Look for the evidence so that you can tell people exactly what you did well, and how you took something from point A to point B. And keep that evidence in a scorecard, right? Like you said, twice a year you're doing this activity to make sure that you're documenting these things, because sometimes you can go to sleep and reset and be like, what did I do last month? I don't even remember. And then everyone hopefully has really trusted either colleagues or people close in their circle, possibly a personal board of directors, mentors, people that you use as references. Well, don't only interface with them when it's time for you to apply for a position and you want to put their information right on a job application. Like, involve them and use them to kind of give you some feedback and help you be realistic about some things, right? Get your truth tellers. You may not like it, but everyone needs their trusted truth tellers close to them. Look for your patterns, right? So look for the things that you tend to excel in. Look for the things that you seem to gravitate towards and that you seem to do well naturally, and document those. And most of all, listen to your inner voice. Like, read the room. Get your EQ up. Know when it's time for you to kind of self-promote and when it's time for you to just... It's not about me this very second. This might be a little bit inappropriate, because there's nothing worse than you're talking about a big strategy and someone hijacks the space because they're like, I, me, and it's like, okay, great, but that's not even what we were talking about right now. Me. Right. So there are some things to do.
Right. Get smart too. Like, understand the operations of not just your area, but find out how to get into those right meetings so you can understand all the other spaces. So again, if we're talking YMCA, team directors who may be out there, program director who may be listening right now, understand what does the associate exec does. I mean, one day you may, taking a look at things just from a traditional standpoint, program director to associate exec or senior program director to exec, understand what that next level up, and I would even say understand what 2 levels up does so that you can be a part of the greater conversation. Because when you go out here and look for jobs right now, it's not about you looking for that next job. It's really 2 jobs from now that you want to look at so that you can have some aspiration while you're in the particular space that you're in right now. Because as a program director, you should be the CEO of your program for that area. Right. And that's a different way of looking. Some people looking, I'm just a program director. I say, no.
What'd you say?
No. I sound like I sing.
No.
But look at yourself as a CEO, because that's your responsibility.
Yeah, that's your.
If it's a $50,000 budget, hey, you manage that $50,000 budget.
Yeah.
And then if there's not when I was a program director, I didn't. When I first got to, I didn't know what raising money was. But here's what I do: I know how to survive, just from a personal standpoint.
Right.
And so therefore, like if my kids that I was responsible for, if they wanted to go somewhere, I had no problem with, hey, Miss Ross, can you give me some money? I remember
my babies need to go here.
Yeah, and so I remember my first big gift, $10,000. I still remember like it was just,
you felt fancy,
man, because we wanted to take the kids on a trip to out of the state, and each year we did some type of missions trip. And so I went and asked for that $10,000. Man, I remember. Oh man, I was on cloud 9.
They couldn't tell you nothing.
Man, that was
you
the
really
first
applied
time.
for that job, then that you wasn't qualified for the.
No. Brother got qualified real quick. I tell you that.
Because you got $10,000.
Because the thing that I understood was that, hey, my budget didn't say that I could do this, so therefore I had to go get the money.
Right.
I understood that right there. So,
and you weren't stopped by the fact that your budget didn't say you couldn't do this.
Here you go.
What was that?
That's my knock on the door. I know how to knock on some door and get the money, but you got to be able to understand your overall organizational operation, so that you can move forward.
The other thing that you can do is when you begin to kind of look at and get close to 2 or 3 levels ahead, or where you want to be aspirationally, you start to build connections. That's another thing that helps you increase your influence and makes you more valuable to an organization. Is you begin to build those connections with other people. It's like you're kind of like the Spidey web keeper of the Webbery. Is that a thing?
You just made it a thing.
Okay, I made it a thing. So, right, like you're that linchpin. You're that one that you can be like, hey, how about this? How about this? Let's connect this. Let's make this, work with this. And building your connections and cultivating those personal connections. Some of those people may end up becoming mentors and on your personal board of directors. They may give you the cheat codes, right? They may, give you a heads up on opportunities or really walk alongside you with stretch assignments. But most of that comes when you are building that connection and people feel like they can trust you, that you're real about, wanting to be valuable and wanting to get to the next level, and that you are in fact a valuable asset to the organization, and they definitely want to do what they can to keep you engaged.
And you talk about the networking. A lot of times people think that networking is about exchanging of business cards. And I would tell you, somebody was doing a show one time and somebody said that, with networking, it's like in the beginning, you may do the exchange of business card thing, but the longer you're in the game, what happens is that you're not out there trying to meet 1,000 people all at one time. It is about how your relationships that you have
that is so true.
Goes deeper with those individuals.
Not wider.
And I would say also early on is that if you're the young program director, and you're just getting out there, instead of asking, holding your hand out for something to people, put it out to them to show them your worth and how you can be a benefit, how you can be a value to them, versus just asking them for something.
Right, straight off the bat, right?
Yeah, that's a little different twist right there, because a lot of times people are at the guards like, oh, here we go. What you want from me?
I just want to help you with whatever, and really mean that, right? Like really mean it without an expectation of a boomerang effect that as soon as you finish helping that they're going to do something for you. But I will say that first maybe senior program director, operations director role that I got, and I got them business cards, I was giving them to everybody. I was so proud of those little cards. It was so excellent.
Now the game has changed now, though.
Right now, you don't want to buy you business cards anymore.
And so I'm gonna give y'all a little cheat code for those who listen. So if you're in a meeting and you don't have that business card to exchange, I wouldn't even take business cards. So here's the way I do
because you lose them and you put them in.
Nah, but that ain't the reason. That's the excuse.
What's the excuse?
Is that I don't have no business card. So what's your number? Let me just put my number right in there. So that way you're automatically getting the number, and you can also text a person right away so they can lock you into their phone.
I want to ask people for their phone numbers like that. That feels, I don't know, line crosser-ish.
Okay.
But you know what else you could do? Like LinkedIn has this find people near me, right? And so if you're on LinkedIn and they're on LinkedIn, you can activate this button and it finds everyone near you who's on LinkedIn. And when you go and meet that person, you just boop, connect right there.
Okay, that's a good one right there.
I don't know the number thing because I wouldn't. Some people I don't want to give them my number.
But here's the thing though, is that your millennials nowadays don't
you
care
sure right? Because I'm borderline millennial.
So I was I met that border so far.
Hey, come on, man.
I'm sorry. I'm not supposed to go there. I was trying to exchange numbers with somebody the other day, and it was like, well, give me a pen and a piece of paper.
You asked them for a pen and a piece of paper?
No. Oh. They did. They did. But this was a millennial.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Because he didn't think that normally what he does is just exchange numbers.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But he said, well, OG Vincent.
Quietly, I think that's what he. Well, I didn't know you did it like that.
I didn't know, sir. I apologize.
But knowing your worth is just so important. I mean, when you're talking about trying to get to that next step in your career, you got to be able to make sure your value is documented, and you got to keep track of that along the way. Others are not going to do that. It'll help you also when you are writing your resume out, because a lot of times what people will do is they will basically put their job description down on a resume, and they won't list at all the accomplishments, what they put down there.
That's very different too.
You got to be able to show your value, show your worth to people when you writing your resume out. Yeah,
that you hit on something right there. Like I get a decent amount of individuals who will say, "Hey, can you look at my resume? Can you check this out? Can you give me the feedback?" And inevitably, more times than not, that's exactly what's on their resume. Is just they just kind of reformulated or reshaped their job description as opposed to really talking about their accomplishments. When I got here, it was this, and when I left or currently is that. I took this from here to there, and it was important because of this, that, and the other thing. Which, if I was looking at the resume, I think I would ask myself the question, so did you do anything?
Exactly.
Right? There's that assessment of value straight off the bat that you can control that assessment just a little bit by what you put on that piece of paper.
Here's a big one though, is shut up and listen. I ain't supposed to say shut up. Well, we grown folks. So
well, go say it then.
Hey, so when you're in a meeting, just listen, just observe. I'm not saying that you go through a whole meeting, don't say anything, but some things you just sit back and take it all in and understand the conversations that people have. If you're in a meeting with senior leaders and they're getting to this one-on-one kind of conversation, and there's some meat in that conversation, like, oh man, maybe let me sit back and listen.
Just listen.
That ain't time for you to put your voice in. And even if you're a senior leader, sometimes is that I would tell you, my man Kirk Hazelbaker, our CEO here at the YMCA Metropolitan Dallas, Kirk sits back and listens.
He absolutely does consistently.
Yeah, just a meeting or two ago, senior leader meeting. Rod and myself were in the meeting, and he's just putting out questions, and it's about direction of the organization. and he is allowing the room to lead and guide that versus saying, all right, hey, this is the direction we're going to go. What do you all want to do? Because if he said that like that, it's then, well, why we even got to say anything? And you already made up your mind.
It would have just boxed in. I mean, sometimes you just got to let folks wander in that conversation. But he really is skilled at that because he does it so consistently. Like you would think, okay, he only engages that tactic with his senior leaders. But I've seen him go into meetings with all kinds of people, no matter whether it's volunteer, whether it's a program director, whether it's a part-time, and he's not posturing. He doesn't come in there and pretend I have all the answers to all the questions ever in the universe. He just really comes in to listen. And even when he's listening, so this is the other nuance I picked up. Even when he's listening to kind of understand where you are, because there is something that he has to tell you, or there is something that he has to explain in terms of an imperative for the organization or whatever the case may be, you don't get the sense that he's only listening as just kind of a behavior, because he already has this persuasive speech in his head, right? Like, it seems that there are times that he's listening. He may know he has to tell you something or give you an imperative, but there's something in a conversation that'll make him say, well, let me rethink that for a second, and we may revisit that, and then he circles back and he gives the people what they want. Like, imagine listening and someone tells you what they want, and that's what you do. What a concept!
I tell you, that's right.
What a concept!
And
right?
so if you're out there again, you're trying to determine what is your wealth. I think a couple of questions that you have to ask yourself. So what do you want to be known for? How do you want to be seen? How is this connected to what your purpose is all about? Because you can go through this and trying to find your value, or want everybody else to know what your value is, or what you're worth. But if you don't know what your own purpose is in all of that,
right?
I mean, that puts it in an awkward situation, because you're going to go out there wandering out there, and you're going to want somebody else to answer that question. I want Rod to be known for this.
Right.
But that ain't what Rod want to be known for.
They might want me to be known for nice blouses, but I want to be known for shoes.
Yeah, and you are known for shoes.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
You are absolutely right. So, principles to remember, some do's. Cultivate those personal relationships, right? Get to know and build those relationships with colleagues and with supervisors. Make it clear that you value listening, and that you want to give people what they ask for, and that you are looking to make sure people understand and know your value. And then take the steps to develop your expertise, right? But don't worry about being manipulative. Make sure you use your steps and things are evidence-based, and you're documenting it, and you're using your emotional IQ, your EQ to interject when it's appropriate. Don't use I too much. Keith said there's an I quota. When you say it too many times, you done said it too many times, right? And then actually do the work. Don't get out there and start pumping yourself up and talking about, oh, I did this, I'm known for that, I'm so excellent in this. And when people peel off just one layer of that onion, not even 2 or 3, they realize, well, I don't really know how accurate that is. But it everyone has value to an organization. You just have to be intentional about showing what yours is, or developing what yours is.
Hey, so what is your worth? What is your purpose to your worth, right? And so we'd love for you guys to leave us a comment or in the chat or somewhere while you're out there after you take a listen to this right here. And thank you guys for listening to Cosmetic.
Well, we're tackling topics and telling the truth.
Hey, subscribe and listen and give us a 5-star review.
And as always,
be dynamic.
be phenomenal.
Be Cosmetic.